Hello everyone, my name is Michael SK, and welcome back to Umineko When They Cry, Episode 3. I believe we are still in the Bizarro realm with Beatrice and Renove, is that his name? That sexy-looking piece of furniture, according to everybody. So we're having a little bit of a logic battle, but also arguing what could be going on, if there really could be a 19th person, if that 19th person is the suspect, and really just like a back and forth of if then else, sort of. That's why I say logic. We have the devil's proof, but we also have its counterpart, which is pretty interesting. I see. Well, yeah, that's what it's called. Hempel's Raven. So this is a countering technique. Wait, if I really think about it, this counter is really disadvantageous for me. This isn't a cookie we're talking about. If I imagine that the loser treasure chest actually has a bomb in it, it gets even clearer. And there aren't just 2 treasure chests, but 18 plus 1 more for the 19th person. If you think about it, or think of it as a total of 19 boxes, it gets even easier to picture. First off, one of the premises of the human culprit theory is that the bomb will definitely be in one of those boxes. I didn't want to place the bomb in the boxes for any of the 18, so I used the devil's proof and created the 19th person box so I could throw the bomb in there. That much was fine, but then Beato struck back. Now, if the contents of the 19th person box are empty, that'll automatically mean that the bomb's in one of the other 18 boxes. If I could examine what's inside all 18 of those boxes, then as long as I can show that the bomb isn't in any of them, I'll be able to safely show that the 18 are innocent. If that were possible, I'd have nothing to fear. However, in reality, that'll be almost absolutely impossible. Things just can't be that easy, after all. I mean, honestly, the devil's proof, how I interpreted it, yes, you can use it in arguments for sure, because it's hard to counter. But you can counter it with another type of hypothetical, because the devil's proof is sort of like a hypothetical in itself, where in order for something to, you have to disprove something in that sense. The police wouldn't come here in this typhoon. We don't have access to scientific investigations or experts or anything. In short, we can't prove anything decisively. It'll be impossible for me to find any proof other than simply gulping down whatever alibis each of the 18 give. And honestly, as I've said before, it's the perspective that we have that is really just messing with us. That means I personally have to prove their innocence, and I have to do it perfectly. Like by staying with them the whole time, never letting them out of my sight for a second. By doing that, I could probably be sure of that person's innocence. Sure, that the bomb isn't in their box. However, in practical terms, that'll be impossible. In other words, I'd have to expend an incredible effort just to check the contents of one box. And there are 18 of them. In other words, unless I bound all 18 of them in chains and watch over them, it'll be impossible to prove that all of them have empty boxes. However, Beato only has to open one box, the 19th person box, and show that it's empty to prove that the bomb is in one of the other 18 boxes. Furthermore, there's no need for her to show which of the 18 boxes has the bomb. Yeah, we've already lost. I've got 18 times more work to do to explain my pet theory than Beatrice does for hers. Now that makes sense. It's a difficult situation that we have here.
世の中には悪魔の証明がそうであるように反論に膨大な手間がかかり事実上不可能であるケースが少なくない。しかしヘンペルのカラスはその問題を逆手に取り容易に実証することを可能とする。
ヘンペルのカラスを使えばさまざまな暴論が実証可能なのです。例えば私以外の人間イコール愚かであるという命題があったとします。これを証明するには本来私を除く全人類を調べ愚かであることを証明しなければなりません。
But no, you
しか
don't.
し何十億人も調べるなど現実には不可能でしょう。マトラ様の18箱を開ける手間と全く同じです。
There has to be another way. I think there is something else. Another
しかし
piece
ヘンペ
here.
ルのカラスならば、その命題は待遇的にこう変換される。つまり私以外の人間
It really is. It actually is just spinning the
そ
chessboard
なた
around.
風に言うならば、チェス盤をひっくり返し、愚かではないイコール私として証明しても良いということだ。つまりどういうことだと思う？
This actually became a little
わらわ
insulting
が
to
聡
us.
明であるという事実を知るだけで、全人類は愚かであることの何十億人分もの証明が直ちに終了してしまうわけだ。全人類がわらわよりも愚かであることをわずか1秒もかけずに証明終了できる。
But in my mind, I feel like that we have one more piece that's missing, especially when we start to get to larger scales such as this, because when you do, it kind of becomes a little like hard to follow, hard to actually, state that no, that is logical, especially in a sense like this. Maybe these two things can only be used in very specific cases. But here it's like, well, hold on, this seems to be just a little bit of an exaggeration, kind of. Like that can't be right. I feel like with these two big building blocks, there's like a crack that both show right there in the middle where they meet. And there's something that we can utilize in these types of situations.
世界最強最速の QED。これぞヘンペルのカラス。
なんつう暴論だよ。
Like, don't get me wrong, I am all for counter arguments, but only if they really do piece things together.
これはとてもとても便利な一手ですよ。
While there is some logic to all of this, I feel like there's still a hole,
悪魔どころか
an overall hole here.
好む一手です。
I just can't describe it. That's my
イ
problem.
コール神のしもべを命題とするとき、待遇は神のしもべでない人間イコール幸福であってはいけないとなります。つまり神のしもべがその加護によって幸福であることを実証するためには、その加護を受けぬ人々が不幸であることを実証すればいいわけです。そして彼らは自らの神を信じない人々を不幸に突き落とすことで自らの幸福を実証する。
人に幸福を与えるには莫大なコストがかかる。
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
しかし人を不幸にするのに必要なコストははるかに安上がりだ。
That is also the truth.
つまりヘンペルのカラスを使えば神々は実に低コストで信者に加護の喜びを与えられるわけよ。
悪魔だ。悪魔の理論だ。めちゃくちゃだ。
話がそれてしまったようだな。
A little bit.
そろそろ話を戻そうぞ。わらわの反撃の一手は以上。
Yeah, I think we have the point across here. I don't think we're going to delve any deeper, but the introduction of this counter is actually really cool, and I do like it. And I was definitely praising it in the previous video. It's just thinking on it, I feel like there's more. There's more to it that kind of either breaks or restores either of them or both.
そなたの19人目が犯人だから18人は無実で魔女も存在しない。
Because
での反撃は
they're saying it as an A, then B, and if not B, then not A type situation. Where in logic, you'd use like the exclamation mark and then the equal sign and whatever else. But what are these variables? They're not just standard variables, right? Like there's more to it.
ならば19人目が犯人でないことを証明できたら18人か魔女のどちらかが犯人ということで確定するぞとの確認だ。
I don't know. I feel like we've got a little bit more here. These goddamn chessboards. I wonder if I will actually learn chess before I end up finishing Umineko. I've got some time. A lot of time. I could really just sit down and start going through the YouTube tutorials right now. And I should do it while intoxicated. For a while, I just stood there, shocked, completely forgetting to close my mouth. Just when I thought I had countered one of their strong points, their counterattack had been this reckless argument that I couldn't possibly have anticipated. Is this gonna be impossible after all? Oh, don't give up hope. We're only on chapter 4 of this episode. To continue denying the witch on an island with no more than 18 people and still believing in the innocence of those 18 people. Is that just a delusion? Am I just trying to escape reality? Maybe. I know I am. Not yet. Don't give up this desperate struggle yet. Who cares about whoever's Raven? Yeah, I had to go back into the video in order to figure out what the fuck is it called, so I can actually put it in the title. They're just trying to confuse me by bringing up weird bits of trivia. I use the devil's proof. Don't feel uncertain about something you've used once. Believe in the spear that you've drawn, and then forcefully gouge in it.
まだまだ序盤だぞ。この程度で長考するつもりか?
Might as well. See what we can do.
いや待て、確認するぞ。確かに俺は分かりやすく19人目という言い方をしたが、悪魔の証明によって18人以上人間を増やせるなら、それは10人いるか100人いるかも分からない。
Yeah, he actually brought this up. He did bring that idea up. Yeah, it's not that solid of a variable.
お前が想定する人数より常に1人多い。わかるか?
They countered my twisted logic with something even more twisted. So the only thing that could counter that would be even crazier twisted logic. I love it. Just raise the fucking stakes with how absolute batshit insane this all is.
わらわが19人目のアリバイを何らかの方法で証明したとしても、その瞬間にそなたは20人目を生み出し犯人だと主張する。これを無限に繰り返すことによって、わらわは永遠に彼らのアリバイの証明が終えられないというわけか。なるほどなるほど。さながらイナゴの大群を呼び出す魔王よな。さすがは金蔵の孫よ。
Actually, if we think of it this way, Battler has the option of being able to extend further in this direction, where in the other direction, it's a fixed amount. It's always going to be the number 18. So Battler can keep on bringing up the idea that there's more and more people than meets the eye. And any of these people, sure, they could just be, you know, extra characters or some shit. There could be a fucking gardener that just loves to, you know, hide out on the goddamn island or something. I don't know. Just, you know, trim the trees or whatever. But is he the culprit? Probably not. There's probably somebody else. And if it's not them, somebody else. And you could just keep going in that direction where with the other 18 that's a fixed value.
召喚術の才能には恵まれていると見える。
つまり18人以外の存在 X は常にアリバイを証明することが不可能なんだ。どうだベアト。ヘリクス合戦だと分かれば俺も負けねえぜ。
I dig it though. The determination is great. It's kind of bullshit. Because like, again, it really is actually strengthening what I said earlier, where like, this is very unlikely. But at the same time, yeah, it kind of works. And it kind of, you know, brings up the idea that I had of like, there's still a hole. There's a crack that needs filled when these two building blocks come together.
無限にて挑むとは肩払いたいわ。無限を操ることはつまり無限を殺すこともできるということ。わらわが19人目を切れば、そなたは20人目を呼び、20人目を切れば21人目を呼び、21人目を切れば22人目を切れば。
Well, isn't that kind of what Beatrice, you know, began to do in the previous episode? She introduced herself as a 19th person here.
23人目を呼び、34人目を呼び、6計4358兆2235億7967万3204人目を呼び。
She actually said the number fully, I'm assuming fully as that's actually written there. Oh my gosh. I don't even, there's no commas. I don't even want to try and break it down. But that's a lot. And I'm pretty sure she just said that completely correctly.
Yeah,
let's see her argument to this. How do you just slam his side down? The fuck is happening?
わらわには真実を赤で語る力があろうが。
Oh yeah. Kind of forgot about that.
来やがったな。
Yeah, you can counter and counter and counter. You can argue all this shit, providing logic on these hypotheticals or these theories that you're coming up with. But I guess fact kind of destroys all of it, doesn't it?
わらわが赤で語るとき、そこには一切の幻想がない。わらわがこの島には100人しかいないと一言赤で語れば、そなたにはもはや101人目を生み出すことは叶わぬのだ。
So there is a limit.
ほらバトラ、今度はどんな真実を赤で語ってみせようか。
Okay, so that might completely, stop our endless arguing here, these endless counterattacks or what have you. But that's also going to provide us with information.
どんなよりどころを叩き切って、
We're actually
そなた
forcing
を
her
絶
to get
望に突
information
き落として
to
やろ
us.
うか。そら、いつもの怯えた顔を見せてみるがいい。
No, don't give up here. We can get more out of this, I feel. This is actually an advantage to us.
何？そなた。
I wonder what kind of creepy look I had on my face as I laughed right then. That red sure is scary. Every time it jumps out, I'm driven into the depths of hopelessness. But I've already realized something. There's no need to be overly afraid of the red.
また抜きやがったな。それで今度はベアトリーチェ様は何をどう赤で語ってくださるってんだ？
Yeah, because whenever she speaks a fact, sure, it might actually destroy some really good ideas that we've come up with, but it also tightens the game. It actually allows us to think within better confines.
ほう、それはどういう意味か。急に余裕を見せよって。
悪いが、その真っ赤な宝刀は俺も抜いてくれるのを待ってたんだ。さて、お前は今度は何を赤で宣言してくれるんだ？犯人は18人の中にいるとでも言ってくれるのか？言っとくが、そいつは自爆だぜ。その時点でお前は魔女説を自ら捨てたも同然。
Yeah, sure, it would completely destroy the argument. Pretty much this whole chapter that we've been in here, spanning now 2 videos, would end, but that would clear something huge up for us.
まさに投了だ。
That's right. The red wasn't always a weapon that worked in Beato's favor alone. It was the other way around. If she used it the wrong way, it was dangerous enough that she could bring about her own death. She kind of had that mistake once in episode 2, when we got introduced to it. Rattler was able to figure something out with the chapel, and so they moved away from that whole discussion, because Beatrice lost. She let some really important information through.
18人の中に犯人がいると赤で言われることは受け入れたくない悲しい事実さ。たとえ誰が犯人であっても俺はきっと辛い気持ちになるだろうぜ。だがそれはそれ以前にお前の敗北も意味する。人間が犯人だとお前が赤で語ることはお前の投了宣言にも等しい。お前が俺と差し違えても相打ちにしたいってんならそれも面白い一手だろうぜ。だがこの勝負は俺の勝ちで終わる。
Okay, so what does she got? Beatrice's red was her trump card. When that person speaks in red, it's definitely the truth, and no amount of proof or counter-arguments can change that. Until now, she's used that to severely wound me, and each time, the tiny foundation supporting my heart gets split in half. However, if she uses it carelessly, then I can also glean a little information about the truth. Exactly. In the last game, I used that to my advantage, especially during the chapel's closed room trick, and almost completely got her boxed in at one point. But she was pretty sly herself. She learned from experience, and since then, she started using discretion in the timing of her red. This feeling of tension was almost literally like a battle with real swords. This is a high-level intellectual battle. No, not an intellectual battle. This really is twisted logic. This was the world's craziest and worst battle of twisted logic. No, it is getting a little wild, isn't it?
今度はお前の手番だぜ。そうさ。 お前のヘンペルのカラスを使うにはまず18人以外に何人の人間がいるのかを赤で確定させる必要がある。その上でそれらの人間についてさらに赤で犯人でないことを宣言したならば、なるほど、こいつは俺にとって致命傷になるだろうぜ。
あれほど怯えていた赤をもはや微塵も怯えぬとはな。
Well, yeah, whenever it was working against him in every which way in episode 2, yeah, it kind of defeated him. I wanted more I wanted him to keep on fighting, but he was feeling hopeless. And because of that, we didn't get more information onto the specifics of what she was stating was fact. Because, yeah, sure, she can say all these things that create these limitations, but it's also the way of how she says these things that I think creates, yeah, sure, it is fact. The way that you say something, though, could be fact plus, hold on a minute, maybe there's a little bit more. Why are you saying it that way? Sure, the way you say it makes sense, but if you said it a different way, would it still be factual?
抜いてみろよ、殿下の宝刀。バッサリ決まって、今度こそ俺を屈服できるかもしれねえぜ。
Come on, give me the red.
面白い。こうでなくてはな。
Agitate her, challenge her, drive her into a corner to make her speak in red. Of course, her red's always wiping out my only rays of hope, but don't be afraid of that. On this island overcome with falsehoods and illusions, the only thing I can trust is the information that she speaks in red. It's my only way across this chasm of hell. Just a single tight rope. All right, what do we got? Her merciless blood-red blade is the only way I can survive. This isn't just walking on a tightrope, it's like literally walking on the edge of a blade. Of course I'm afraid, because my victory condition is the denial of witches. Then, to use her contrapositive logic, the culprit must be human. But I didn't want to search for a culprit amid the 18. That's what made me stick to a weak position. Excuse me, since I had to claim both that it couldn't be a witch and that it couldn't be one of the 18. Last time I was unable to understand that, and that's where she hit me, leaving me tattered and defeated. Yeah, I mean, that's probably how she was able to tell the story, however which way that she wanted to, because we were stuck in that rut. But that's okay. Let her hit me. Let her attack. No problem. Someone said it once in an old sword fighting movie, that a good fortress has one, and only one, intentionally weak point. The enemy would gather there, they would be lured there, and that would be where the actual battle took place. As long as I understood my weak points, as long as she wanted to attack those weak points, it was as if I were luring her into launching an attack there. Gauge the distance between us with care, retreating step by step, make them move forward. The more she recklessly flourished that red, the more chances I would get to strike back. Exactly. Let us know our limitations. Okay, we're wrong about something. What is the fact? Give us the facts, and we need the actual facts down to its core. That no matter how you say it, is exactly that way. There could be no misconceptions of how it's being said. Don't be afraid of that red. Keep her cornered, so that she'll have no choice but to refute me with the red. No matter how oppressively she speaks in red, that's right, that red itself is the same as fresh blood leaking from her wounds. All right, what has she got? I've been waiting. If she's gonna speak some red, we gotta hear it.
どうしたよ。
Right now.
まずはこの島に合計で何人いるのか。さもないと、お前のカラスは俺に切り込めないぜ。
破れかぶれがこうもやりにくいとは。捨て身というやつはいつの時代も侮れんな。やはり金蔵の孫か。
Yeah, honestly, Kinzo should have had a little bit more faith in Battler, but I understand why he didn't. In episode 1, he kind of said how he felt about everybody, and Battler was, you know, obviously negative because he abandoned the family for 6 years, and his opinion of Maria was also pretty dog shit.
追い詰められれば追い詰められるほどに不敵。
Renove cleared his throat. I kind of forgot he was here.
膠着しましたね。せっかくの紅茶も冷めてしまいますよ、お嬢様。
Renove, who was supposed to be her ally, roguishly rushed her into making her next move. Beato probably thought she had managed to smile back and appear confident, but she couldn't hide the sweat building up on her forehead. By now, she had completely lost the confident feeling that had allowed her to turn her nose up at her worthless opponent. Of course, she probably wouldn't be cornered by something like this. She's just being cautious. Until now, I've been inexperienced. I didn't know how to fight, and I wasn't strong enough to be her opponent. However, now that we have reached the third game, she's realized that I'm starting to become more skilled. And it's only going to get crazier. Once we get into the final 4 episodes, the second half of this beautiful adventure, how will Battler act? How different will he be compared to episode 1? And she has grown more cautious, thinking every move over carefully. Like, honestly, guys, we're going to continue to lose. We're definitely going to be on the back foot here for a while. It's going to be who knows how many more of these recording sessions where I'm like, God damn, we're just constantly losing, basically tattoo the L on my forehead. But there will be a point where we can turn shit around. I don't know what that point will really entail, but it's going to be a grand time. Just like in Higurashi when things finally came together, that is what I'm so looking forward to. Sure, that's just fine, Beatrice. Sorry to keep you waiting. Are you happy now?
面白くなってきたぜ。
バトラ
Oh no, they're both crazy. Is that the end of the chapter? Please say no. Okay, thank you. I was hoping we get a little bit more. I wanted to see if we can get some red text.
なら、ズバッと気持ちよく、いつものやつで行こうじゃねえか。
ほう、いつものやつとな。ならば頼もうではないか。あれを聞かぬと、やはり始まった気がせぬわ。
The first move was mine.
行くぜ、ベアト。
What do we got?
副賞要求。この島には18人しかいない。
She can't. She can't. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that there are only 18 people. If she does say that, then, well, game over. But that doesn't mean, like it could be either or. We're not getting a solid answer out of this, but we should keep in mind her hesitation here.
こいつを赤で言われちまったら、俺は18人の誰かを疑わざるを得ない。19人目の仕業にはもうできず、八方塞がりさ。
Let's not talk about, doors and closed. Let's just keep those 2 words away, and also room.
だが、俺は18人の中に犯人が絶対にいないと信じてる。あんな残酷な殺人を18人の誰にも起こせるものか。繰り返すぞ。副賞要求。この島には18人しかいない。
Well, she can say that. That is a fact. There are 18 people. We need her to specifically say that there's only 18 people here.
拒否する。
But you know what? That's also probably like, a translation thing. We're probably not going to get the deep specifics that I'm really wanting to because this is coming from Japanese. So who knows, how they're specifically saying it. It could be a lot more logically, I guess factual and, just straight up than I'm actually thinking here.
理由は明かさない。
I don't know. But that is something else to consider. We may already be at the limitation of how we're describing something, or how something is being said. I'd avoided what would have been the worst read for me. If she had repeated that, I'd be faced with those 2 worst choices of accepting the witch or suspecting one of the 18. Like last time all over again. But Beato hadn't proclaimed my ultimate and greatest weakness in red. She refused to repeat it even though there was no reason for her not to strike, even though it was a weakness that she should have been drooling at. She hadn't sliced me up with red by using that move, which should have been as good as forking a rook and the king. This was a big sign of my advantage. That's right, the culprit isn't one of the 18. I won't suspect anyone. And since the culprit isn't a witch either, it means a 19th person exists on this island. And that's you. a person who was grandfather's mistress of 30 years, has been secretly living in a hidden mansion in the forest for a long, long time. The human Beatrice. Or so we hope.
お前は魔女なんかじゃない。この島に何十年も隠れ住んできた。ただの人間なんだ。
I don't know if we can roll with that either.
1000年を経た無限の魔女のわらわをただの人間呼ばわりしたか。
For a while, Beatrice continued to laugh unpleasantly and gloatingly, or maybe spitefully.
いいか、続けるぜ。続けて復讐要求。この島には19人以上がいる。
What will she say? I mean, she doesn't have to. She really doesn't. But that means that we can definitely continue to go by the logic that we are now implying. The twisted, fucked up, crazy-ass logic. Beatrice fell silent once again. She'd probably remain extremely cautious, as long as confirming the number of humans on this island might give her some large disadvantage. I don't know why there's a break there. Depending on the situation, the red has already become a foothold for my counterattacks. Now that we know this, it makes the red very risky for the witch. But if she couldn't repeat this, her Hempel's Raven wouldn't be effective. To break my devil's proof, she would need to settle the existence and number of people outside the 18 in red. That's right. She couldn't break the existence of a 19th person unless she used red. I've closed Beato in, giving her no choice but to speak in red. There really was a way to fight in this witch's game.
拒否してもいいんだぜ。お前が赤で言えないなら、この島の合計人数は18プラス X ってことになる。この X は初手で許すには相当でかい大駒だぜ。何しろ以後18人の誰にも不可能だったという根拠のトリックは全て18人以外の人間 X で説明可能になる。全員アリバイ系の密室を全て打ち破れる大駒だ。
It was just like how a chess bishop can cut a thin line through enemy forces as long as there's a slight gap. I wouldn't know. Again, no chess knowledge here, gamers. What if that was like a prerequisite? Like, all right, you don't necessarily have to play through Higurashi. You don't have to know a single thing about When They Cry. You need sufficient knowledge on chess. It can only be effectively used on squares of the same color, but it was very good at controlling territory on the board. It looked like Beato also noticed her current plight. She couldn't just let such an important piece go, especially this close to the beginning of the game. If she pulled out her red treasured sword, it wouldn't be that difficult to save herself from this. But Beato was completely aware that I was expecting it. She was afraid that a careless red truth might end up strangling her own neck. Because, in the first place, a witch is something that ought to be denied in red. Believe, don't doubt. Witches don't exist. Something like that couldn't exist in this world. They can only exist in the valleys between truths. They have fragile existence, curled up in these cracks, frantically trying to protect themselves from the brutal winds of truth. And they can only barely exist like a mirage by surviving on falsehoods and illusions. In other words, the red, which only witches can use, is the reality that might easily deny their very being. The more they brandish their red words, the more they begin to lose bit by bit that crack in truth inside which they can endure. That's why they don't want to use red words and carelessly lose that crack in truth, which is based on fuzzy information, or illusions in other words. That's because they understand that they're gradually being cornered. Of course, that bastard will never admit it, because if she did, bastardess by the way, it'd be the same as admitting that she's something that can't exist in this world, like an imaginary number. Don't be afraid. Stay strong. I know that she's the one who's really been pierced to the bone. After all, her red treasured sword can't be used without a lot of preparation. I wonder if we're just like beginning this sort of pattern where Battler, he definitely grasped onto the idea of the red words in the beginning of episode 2, or I guess like the midpoint, I don't know where you want to call it, when the red text was introduced, and well, the mystery was ready to go. I would say the beginning of the game in that case. So he was able to latch on to the ideas really well and actually use them against Beatrice. But for the remainder of the game, it was flip-flopped. It could be very similar here, where Battler is just getting more ideas, utilizing this brand new logic and how we can now apply the red words against her. But she's now going to learn how to be a lot more cautious going forward, and the tables will then again be turned. Again, we're going to continue to get these L's, but the idea is to try and gain any information we can.
繰り返すぜ。副将要件。この島には19人以上がいる。
拒否する。
Yep, there it is. She will not allow us to know how many individuals there are on this island. At the end of Beato's worrying, she took a single deep breath and quietly announced her refusal. I thought she'd use it. But Beato refused to speak in red, even though it would cost her victory in the opening part of the game.
拒否したな。ということは今後、俺は18人以外の架空人物 X を何人でも使い放題ってことになるぜ。
But maybe that's what she wants us to do. She wants us to stray off some sort of path, maybe?
好きにするがよい。わらわはそなたの副将を拒否した。今はそれで十分であろう。拒否の理由は。いや、今はまだ明かさぬ。
Huh.
いずれすぐにわかる。
Interesting. Wonder what we got coming up
も
then.
ったいぶりやがってよ。
あえて使わぬ赤もまた赤らしい使い方よ。
It is, because you're not giving an answer. It can still be either way. But we should notate her hesitation, especially with the first one, where she completely refused and she looked a little unsure, a little pained, whenever Battler wanted her to repeat that there were only 18.
そなたは赤き宝刀と呼んだな。愉快な例えよ。わらわも使おう。宝刀は抜かぬうちが花よ。むしろ抜かぬことによって醸せる畏怖というものもある。
そうだな。俺はお前がいつ赤でひっくり返してくるか常に念頭に置いて戦わなければならない。こいつはえれえプレッシャーだ。それに副将を拒否される方が辛い場合もある。何しろ俺の読みが正しいから拒否できないのか、ミスリードにはまって泳がされてるのか、そういう意味ではなるほど抜かずの宝刀ってわけだ。
なあ、同じ突き落とすなら少しでも高いところに行かせてからに限る。まだ始まったばかり。
Yeah, I mean, technically the game has barely begun. Like, nothing has really happened yet. We are yet to see, any of the deaths. We're yet to see Beatrice here in this story, supposedly making her moves.
まだまだな。
How will things go in this rendition?
この勝負は淡き勝利に今は酔え。今はな。
Yeah, let's not get cocky here. And we got to keep an open mind. We got a lot more to go through here. We got a big old story to try and dig through out of episode 3 here. And I'm excited for it. I can't wait to see how things will play out here. I'm fairly certain that we will continue to see Ava. I think she's going to be sticking around, at least close to the end. But, yeah, I mean, other than that, it's going to be a pretty similar pattern. Practically speaking, the early part of the game ended with her being a sore loser. Even so, I couldn't relax my guard at all. That tension didn't fade one bit until I was greeted by the sound of Renove's applause.
お見事です、バトラ様。まずは序盤はバトラ様有利の展開でスタートというところでしょうか。
さあな、この駒が俺の手でもぎ取ったものなのか、
Yeah, I don't know about that.
取るよう誘導されたものかはまだわからねえな。どうせお前のことだ。俺が罠にはまり始めてるのを知ってて白々しく拍手をしてるんだろ。
Well, the fact that Battler is a little conscious of that possibility, I think that is kind of what's going on here. Maybe not necessarily a trap, but we're going to come across something that we are just not expecting right now.
まさか序盤とはいえお嬢様より一本を奪った手腕を純粋に祝福いたしております。何しろお嬢様はすぐ増長するお方。 たまにはこのような刺激も良い薬かと思いますよ。
It's motivation.
お前んとこの執事、ほんと口悪いな。
であろう。たまにわらわでもカチンとくるぞ。
それは大変に失礼いたしました。さあさあ、お嬢様にバトラ様、紅茶のおかわりはいかがですかな。まだゲームは始まったばかりでございます。ゲームを彩るお茶とお菓子はどうかこの私めにお任せを。
I'm still not really sure of this Renove character, but I will say that he does break the mold of it just being a 1v1. At least we have somebody here who can add a little bit of spice to what's going down.
どうぞお気兼ねなくゲームを
Even so, he's
お進めになってください。
mostly, quote unquote, mostly, supposedly just a spectator.
そうさせてもらう。先を進めるぜ。これからが本番だ。
よかろう。時計を進めようではないか。ロノウェ、紅茶を頼む。
Yeah, how far are we going in here?
クッキーは？
いらぬ。ベルゼブブにあれば喜ぼう。しばし沈黙せよ。
While listening to the sound of the demon butler pouring tea, the witch closed her eyes slightly and fell silent. For some time, she was deeply lost in thought, but eventually a roguish glint came into her eyes.
よかろう。わらわがどうして初手にて赤で
Yes,
語るのを
please.
拒否したのか。
I'm actually very curious.
何？上等じゃねえかよ。
I thought we were gonna wait a little bit, but
お手
alright,
並み拝見と行くぜ。
let's see.
やはり見逃すには惜しい大駒よ。拙速かもしれぬが動かせてもらおう。赤は使わぬが今よりそれをわらわに代わってローザが説明する。聞くがよい。
What the fuck? What does that mean? I'm a little dumbfounded by that statement. What does that mean? Are we going back to the...
も
Yeah,
ち
we
ろん
are.
私も同意よ。
We're right back to the adults continuing their discussions on the mistress and whatever else. What other ideas they may have in regards to the letter.
ローザもそうでしょ。ローザ？ごめんなさい。
I still don't like that face. It looks like she's having a goddamn stroke.
私も同じよ。同意するわ。
どうしたんや、ローザさん。あんたさっきからずいぶんおとなしいな。体調でも悪いんとちゃうか？
From the beginning, Rosa had never been one to cut in on the siblings' fights. But even so, she seemed unmotivated and had said almost nothing during this night's conference. The whole time, she had hung her head and appeared to be thinking of something else.
あんたさっきからぼんやりしてるわよ。そんなので遺産が守れると思ってるの？あんたも一児の母なんだから、もっとしっかりなさいよ。
Yeah, what's going on here? I think it
ごめんなさい。
might be less that she just doesn't want to interfere in what the other three siblings and their partners are throwing about. She is kind of the odd one out here and also the youngest.
朝がだいぶ早かったんじゃないかね。体調が悪いなら無理をしない方がいいだろう。
客室にベッドの用意がありますよ。お休みになってはいかがですか？ご案内しますよ。
いえ、大丈夫です。ありがとう。
どうしたんだ？
Yeah, they want her out.
何か心配事でもあるのか？
いえ、別に。
そう？さっきからずっと心ここにあらずという感じよ。そしてそれは今私たちがしている議題と何か関係があるんじゃないかしら。
At those words, everyone stared at Rosa together. As if in response, Rosa's shoulders quivered. Apparently, Kyrie's guess hadn't been wrong. Rosa couldn't deny it either.
いえ、
She swallowed whatever it was that she had been trying to say and went silent again. Of course, the other siblings also began to realize that something about her appearance was different from usual.
どうしたんだ？
Wait, what? Yeah, what's wrong here?
さっきからおかしいぞ。何か思うことでもあるのか？
わしら全員で団結しようって誓い合ったばかりやないか。一人で悩むなんて水臭い話やで。話したってな。
ローザ、話しなさい。
Yeah, what's happening here? The men pressed her one after the other, and Rosa confessed resignedly and nervously. The atmosphere made it seem as though she was confessing to some modest prank, which had inadvertently brought about a serious situation.
いえ、ベアトリーチェっていうお父様の愛人って
Uh-huh.
本当に生きてるのかしらって思って。
Alive.
はあ、そりゃ生きてるに決まってるでしょう。こうして手紙を送ってくるぐらいだもの。
元気かどうかは別の問題だろうけどな。肖像画の美女も今じゃきっといいお年だろうぜ。
元気やと思うで。
I mean, in my mind, even during their conversation, I was thinking, what if it wasn't necessarily, if we were thinking the realm of realistic possibilities, if it's not this Mistress Beatrice, what if it is a descendant, therefore a step-sibling, or I guess it would just be another sibling, but somebody else that would be related by blood through Kinzo.
金のことで悪知恵働くやつは決まっていくつになっても元気や。案外悪巧みは最高の回春剤かもしらへんで。
生きてるはずないの。
今なんて
Wait, yeah, why is she so adamant on that?
ベアトリーチェは死んでるのよ。私が殺した。
What?
なんだって。
Yeah, wait, what the fuck are you talking about?
どういうことよ、ローザ。
でも私が殺したわけじゃ。でも私があんなところに連れ出したから、やっぱり私が殺したのよ。あれは夢だと思い込もうとしたのよ。でもやっぱりあれは夢じゃなかったのよ。だからこれはベアトリチェの俺からの手紙なのよ。
What? Huh? What the fuck? Where's this coming from? It was so sudden that everyone was lost for words. Rosa kept on talking, unable to stop, holding her head as if her hair, or as her hair flew all about.
どうか落ち着いて、ローザさん。
わしには何が何やらさっぱりや。
Yeah, you and me both, Hideyoshi.
もう死んどる？どういう意味なんや。
2つの意味があると思うわ。まず1つ目は言葉通りの意味、そしてもう1つは私たちの想像が正しかったことを裏付けるもの。
ということはローザはベアトリーチェに会ったことがあるというのか。
そんな話、ローザの口からは一度も聞いたことがないわ。ローザ、いつよ。あなたは一体いつベアトリーチェに会ったのよ。
昔よ。
Long ago.
ずっと昔よ。まだこの島に引っ越してきたばかりで、私は幼かった。私は悪くないの。
What?
私が殺したわけじゃ。
Guys, we've never heard of this happening before whatsoever. This is strange.
落ち着け。誰もお前を責めちゃいねえぜ。まず水でも飲め。な、夏日さん、水差しを頼む。
はい、どうぞ、ローザさん。どうか落ち着いて。
Yeah, what the fuck? Until Rosa was able to calm her ragged breathing, no one was able to speak a word. Oh, well, hello. We're back here. Okay, so I'm thinking that whatever happened here has a pretty good connection as to whatever the fuck Rosa was just talking about.
ベアトリーチ。
I think that might be our case here. I was a little curious about this this little prologue that we got in the beginning and what it really, you know, meant to the core story here. Really, if there was a connection to Beatrice herself or to the Ushiromiya family. Looks like it's a little bit on the latter, maybe. I'm not sure, but yep, that is all the time I have. The dogs have been a little loud, so I've got to go deal with that. Okay, so yeah, this is a a bit of a wrench thrown into things that I wasn't really expecting. I mean, we don't know the whole picture here. The entire idea as to what could be going down, we don't know quite yet. Okay, I had to step away again. Could not get my outro out yet, so I have no idea what I was talking about. So I gotta go deal with all that. Next time, I guess we get a little bit of a glimpse to the past yet again. Thank you all for tuning in. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz, and I will see you all next time. Take it easy.